Hey, you're about to watch a sick interview coming up with a guest that I've brought on, and I'm just going to kind of let them do their thing. I'm going to let them do their thing. So I hope you can enjoy this. Just grab a notebook. Make sure you grab a notebook and a pen so that you can take notes. I'm not the one sharing stuff here. This is them. So let them do their business with you and coach you into something relating to marketing and teach you something new. You can learn from people from all different industries. So also hit the subscribe button and then hit a bell. The bell should pop up after you hit subscribe. That would just help me bring the subscriber number up. You know, I love that. And then it'll also notify you whenever new videos go live or new interviews like this go live. So make sure you do that. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hopping on, Nick. It's super cool to have you here and talk to you, especially about GeekOut, the events side of things and marketing together combined explodes. So can you give a little bit about yourself first? I don't want to spend too much time on that. Everyone knows who you are, but just for the few people who just need to know the gist of it, like if they've seen you around, they need to know you. What are you? Who are you?
Some people are probably seeing ads, or some people have probably muted me, so I apologize. I'm coming on 9 years, almost 10 years of direct to consumer, whether it's primarily agency side, whether it was with the product like fidget spinners, or like short winning products. I've made a pretty strong name for myself in the direct to consumer gadgets and selling of things on the e-com side of things. I never went and built a solid brand other than Fidgetly, and I would actually take partial credit. A lot of that goes to Jake Schmidt, which is my partner in all things moving forward. He isn't a partner in GeekOut, which is weird, but that was started. I'll tell the story after this. So right now, like, you would probably know me for, or probably hear the name around Constant Creative, which is like on-demand ads, similar to Design Pickle, but just performance related. And then the last would be Structured, which is the agency that we do all the things marketing you can kind of think of. So I don't want to say we're full service, but we definitely have the ability to do it all. But people use us like piece by piece. If it's got conversions, community, or conversations, like I'm doing my best to be involved there.
3 C's, there you go. So what's the history behind you and GeekOut? How did that get started?
Actually, so GeekOut started 4 years ago. And it actually started in Las Vegas with a partner of mine called James Van Elswick. So James is a little bit older than me. He's like late 30s, I believe, early 40s potentially. And he called me up because he was like a lead gen guy, affiliate guy, and I've always been ecom all the way through. And he was jumping into my world. And he goes, "Yeah, like how do we sell these little drone things?" And I was talking him through it. And it got really educational, and I was like helping him and talking about things. And he goes, "Dude, I want to start like a series. I want to like do like a mastermind or an education thing." And I was like, "I don't know what that is." And at this point, I was still new to the space. There's not really many mentorships or things that I now know I should have done much sooner, like masterminds and sharing information, especially with the top percent. It's really important for personal growth and really important for your overall business growth, which I learned that after the fact 4 years into this. So James basically said, "Let's go do an event." And myself, Jake, James, and a couple other people made a bunch of content. We went and rented out like a very mansion-like thing and I do the air quotes because when we got there, it was shockingly not what we anticipated in Vegas. And we sold tickets. We sold $5,000 to $10,000 tickets. We got a group of 15, 20 people there. And I'm like, holy moly. This is pretty cool, right? Like this, there were very formal-esque types of masterminds and events and things that like I was privy to, but I never did it in my way, which as you can tell, I got my hoodie, my hat, and my shorts, my glasses usually. And we did it our way. Like back in the day, a lot of these marketing people, they would jump on stage with a suit or dress shirts. And you had guys that look like this, ex-soccer player dude, talking about ads and conversions. And it was, why I think GeekOut is where it is after 4 years is because we don't care. Like we don't care what you look like, who you are, what you're doing. Like James is an incredible person here. He comes from a very different background. Like he he served a little bit of time, right? Like, so he knew what it felt like to not have any opportunity or a tribe that actually gave a shit about things, that you can kind of mesh with. And so we always strove to try and find a group that would share information willingly, right? Like it's really difficult when you get into like these affiliate groups or these people that want to like hide things. But as soon as you go like, no, palms up approach, here's what we do and how we do it, you attract the people that want to be with you.
Yeah. So what was your why behind starting Geek Out? So you said James kind of came to you and was like, we should make an event, right? Was it just to inform people? Were you the one initially on stage talking and James on stage talking, or like, did you get guests to speak mainly? What was the whole purpose in the beginning to start?
Good question. So up until this year, I just stopped talking at my events this year. So last year I've talked for the last 3.5, 4 years up until this year because of how many events we had to do. So normally I would talk at every single one of them. And it honestly started with, I thought that I could get a group of people that would have similar views and perspectives as myself. And we could talk about the things that I cared about. Like, I don't know about you. Are you in a relationship?
Yeah, married.
Okay. How often do you get to sit here and talk to her about conversion rate optimization or ads or clicks or things like? Probably not that much.
Every day. No.
No. Well, like, okay. So my missus, she owns a women's clothing store. Like she completely different business. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's some overlap, but I couldn't sit here and talk about all the things that you and I love. And so we try to grow our own crew. So it came with like, we wanted people that we could generally geek out about the shit that makes us all nerdy like. And at the time, you have the traffic conversions, you have the like giant affiliate summits, you have the two different sides of like giantness that you couldn't really build personal connection. And we were doing like 15, 20, 30 people. And it was literally James, myself, and we'd have like one or two supporters on the event planning side of things. And we just did it. We just like, kudos to James. He put a lot of time and effort into it at the beginning. Still obviously does, but now our team is getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah. That's awesome. So events are like an exciting thing to do. It's a lot different than paying a brand to do like agency services for you. So I guess that's why I'm so excited to get into like what this entails and eventually in the future be hosting my own events. So where did you initially develop a following that really wanted to, that you knew would love your events and not only like love them, but like love them enough to first buy tickets, then buy the plane flights, and then hotel? Like, how did you find that following in the beginning and progress that to grow?
It's a good question. I'm reflecting on it now. So I've been in the industry almost 10. The event's been running more than 4. So for half of the years leading up to it, dude, I was in Facebook ad buyers group. I was attending other people's events and talking there. I was posting consistent content. I was doing the YouTube videos. It took me until the founder course came out last year, right? So there took a long time of building like quality content and actual consistency across as many channels. And at the time, it's just Facebook. Or like Facebook and Instagram were my 2 channels of choice that I've chosen to share and continue to build. And there's a fine line. There's a fine line of going overcrossing into guruism and being like someone that continues to provide value. And like, I see that individual. Even today, I get pictures of people like taking pictures of the books that I share. And it's like this balance of like, we have to be able to sell and ask for the thing that we want, which is the tickets. Or the attendance or the mind share, but we have to continue to share the things without any expectation of a return. And I started that way. Like before I was an employee. So I was an employee of Tim Bird. I was an employee of Common Thread. I was an employee of OMD. Like I wasn't a person that was able to even require someone to pay me for something because they're looking at me like, who are you? You're not a business owner. You're an employee. Like what? Like you might be great, but like, what have you built? That was, I kept getting that view, and I'm like, fair enough. I'm building. I'm over here building my thing, but I just the consistent amount of content I was putting out on Facebook and Instagram at the time. And now if I look at it, like it's a pretty built out program that I'm pretty proud of. And I think a lot of people that are like yourself, if you're going, okay, so how do I continue to build this out? So we post between 3 to 4 times on Twitter a day, and we reshow this 3 to 4 times on Twitter every single day, and we're resharing consistently across like small groups. So you'll probably see Savannah, Jason Wong-Rapung, and Chase Dime, which is my other partner on the email side of things. And then there's like a couple of the select people that we will interact here and there. Well, we keep everybody accountable, and we're posting very consistent thing of what we want to be known for. There's 4 pillars of content that I'm really good at sharing or good at aggregating. One, very high-end lists of things that make sense for web developers or media buyers or e-com stores, like aggregating things to provide resources. Second is creative that converts content. So I've done a lot of talks like this on Affiliate World or e-com World or iStack or my events or Ezra Firestone's events. That is like the value of that. I know, hey, I'm not going to pitch. I'm not going to put a link. I'm not going to put anything on stage. I'm going to just share. If someone wants to talk to me, here's my email. That's the thing that people fuck up early on, is they like, what stage can I get onto to try and sell my product? And listen, if you're an agency, there's someone who really wants to buy a $5, $10, $15,000 product without even knowing if it's going to work for you. It was a little bit easier then. It's definitely difficult more now than it was before. And so it really took me until Affiliate World in 2019 was when we launched Constant Creative on stage. Like I just put it in the bottom right. And it was like, hey, we didn't even have a landing page. It was an email capture. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna talk about content. If you're interested, like the only thing that you saw was the fact that it was on the bottom right corner. And like, hey, we got some search volume. But strategically allowing people to find me of all the places I'm sharing, between Twitter, between YouTube, between other people's platforms, and then obviously my own channels. Like it's just a consistent thing. Like if this is your thing that you're like, hey, I really want to go deep into it, giving other people platform or spending the money and giving other people the opportunity to share what they have. There's like this feeling, I talked about it a little bit before, like as we're looking for more speakers, this is the first year that I've done like a public, hey, I want more talent because I don't want to use them with the same pool of people. Dude, we got like 45 people that hit up and said, hey, here's what I can talk about. Here's the areas that I want to go into. And that's incredible. Like the feeling you get when you create a concept or an idea or did the analysis on stuff that you were executing on or somebody on your team was executing on. And then you connect this concept, you teach and talk about it publicly. And then the whole group goes like, yeah, I get it. And then you land it. Or you hit a joke publicly. Oh my gosh, the feeling people, the confidence, like I tell you, dude, this confidence. Yeah. I talked about before, this individual named Kiefer, and he's an Amazon guy, total nerd. He wouldn't be offended by me calling him that because he knows he is. He jumped on stage and he did so much practicing because I'll explain a little bit more of our process of why GeekOut is a little bit different than most events after the story. Kiefer jumps on stage and he's going so fast. And if you've ever been to an event, which I hope you do in the past, I stand in the back. And so you see me the entire time because it's kind of like a performance in the sense of I know your presentation before and after, like everything. I know specific questions for each one of your presentations. And I'm seeding questions in the audience. I'm like, hey, can you ask them about this? So there's a full conversation going on when you're trying to connect concepts with me. And so I'm in the back going, I have the mic, I'm like, either you're slowing you down or like speeding it up. I got the timer. So it's a very like back and forth engaged thing. And Kiefer was like, I was like, relax, slow down. And as soon as he like hit his groove, it was this like instant thing. He came around and his demeanor, his posture, his chest, like his arm, like he nailed it. And he gets off stage and he basically, like he's dabbing up his friend. He's giving hugs and high fives and everywhere. And his girl, like Tiffany, comes up and gives him like this big old hug and a kiss. Like, just like this moment of like, dude, I've overcome public speaking, which is probably the most intense thing for most people. My girl was there, my family's there, and you're just on cloud nine, dude. Like, how do you recreate that? You talked about earlier, like it's much different than shipping a product and they get a feeling from the product. This feeling of I planned this content, I practiced this content, I delivered this content, and I crushed it, and I got great questions. There's no better feeling. And especially if you can be the reason why that happened, It's so fulfilling. I tell everybody, it's the business that makes me the least amount of money, but it makes me the most amount of happy.
I'm sure. Um, so transitioning out of the like leading up to getting people there, what does it look
Yeah.
like when you get there? What makes a good event? How do you blow people out of the water at these kinds of events? What's your way of doing things?
So I'll explain a little bit why it has to be an incredible experience, and I'll talk about two events we've done. So we've done LA and we did Ukraine. Those two. Ukraine price point was 7,500, and LA was 3,500, $4,000. Most events are 2 days. Our events are 3.5 or 4 days. So you arrive on Thursday, and the event is two different types of experiences that people need to specifically have, and it's on the attendee have to be very aware of what they're trying to do. Are you trying to come here as a founder or as like a lead in your company or team, and are you trying to learn through the content, or are you trying to come here and learn through the interactions and the networking? That's one pillar. That's a learning section. Am I trying to learn from the people, or am I trying to learn from the networking, or do I want to try to do some combination of both? The second one is, am I trying to like build up my network in this industry of others that like I can go lean on, or that I can go have communications with? That's still learning, but there's this different vibe of like, I'm trying to come, like if you were to come with, and you're like, hey, Nick, I want to learn more about the event stuff. You're probably going to come, you and I are going to spend a lot of time together, and you're going to observe the way that I'm working a room, or I'm running the room. Or I'm like, hey, like you two need to meet here, or how I'm running that show, or running the way that things are organized. You're just going to learn a little bit different. And seeing how people act, especially post-COVID times, it's very telling to see how comfortable they are in the room, how much they want to get out of each and every event. And so that's extremely important. Second is, the person that knows what they want usually can find the conversations. And I don't know about you, but there's very different ways of entering conversations and exiting conversations politely yet respectfully. A lot of people don't understand how to exit a conversation, where it comes from like, hey, I'm a brand, you might be an agency. I'm not looking for an agency partner. Hey, I understand. I would love to learn a little bit A, B, C, D from you, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue on this path to go find other brands that might be going through what I'm going through. I want to connect with. So it is really a kind of a song and dance for people to get there. But the overall experience at GeekOut, Thursday afternoon, you get in, no content, just good food and cocktails. And so that way you have your name tag and everybody understands what industry you're in, what you're looking for. And I always greet everybody. It's like, know what you want to do early on, or if not, have an idea of who you want to talk with. So it starts with a little bit of a speed dating, 5-10 minutes, I'll hit a bell, you move on to the next person. That way you can kind of make a list of people. Okay, I know I got to spend time with so-and-so, or get breakfast, lunch, or dinner with this group of people the next day. And that's for two people. That's for the sponsors, because we usually have about 3 to 4 sponsors, and that's for the attendees, trying to build a relationship. And then the Friday morning, we get right after it. We've always been heavy content. Like we've always been 14, 16, 20 talks. They're between 35 to 45 to even potentially an hour. I've gotten feedback from different versions here. So we always do heavy content. And that way people are in there from about 9 a.m. where they're getting their coffee, their breakfast, sitting through me the entire time. And we usually take multiple breaks throughout the day, a lunch, and we end around 4 p.m. And that's the same structure from Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday is like missed connections, or the final like boozy brunch, we always call it. We'll feed you, we'll give you more alcohol so you guys can enjoy it. But as the world kind of picks back up, people need to travel. So it is a huge investment. It's 4 days, fully locked in, fully draining, fully communicating. And if you are willing and wanting to kind of build that connection, I've seen, let's put the last LA event, we had three people cry because of people they met or conversations they had to have, like very intimate things that they're like, I needed to find a group like this that kept me accountable, or reminded me that like there's still more to go. Because it's really inspiring, and it's also like frustrating because you're like, fuck, I'm not where that person is, or you're like, whoa, I'm actually ahead of these people. You somewhere land on some of these spectrums, and to see that in real life is absolute blessing.
So it seems like you let a lot of the relationships dictate the atmosphere of the event. Would you say that's true?
I would say that's absolutely true. This year we had 565 uniques attend, and then of those uniques, we had about like 45 that like came to 2 or 3 events. So to see
Whoa.
that, it's like that's a lot of travel. That's a lot of time. We did 5 events this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it
And
is. It
is,
is.
do you feel okay with 5 events? What are you doing next year? Like, you're going up a few, right?
Yeah, we're doing 16.
Oh, that's not a few. That's a lot more. That's awesome.
We're gonna split it up a little bit. We're gonna segment, because we feedback that we got was like, I just want more brands, or I want more service providers, or I want agency stuff. So we're gonna do like
Gotcha.
an agency only one to keep those guys and teach and talk about that specifically. Brand work, so it's just all brands. We're gonna actually limit the amount of agencies, less than about, I think it's less than 10% we agreed on, or less than 5%. So maybe like 3 in the room, so that nobody feels preyed upon. And then we're going to do like an Amazon/Shopify mix. So those that are great at Amazon but new to Shopify, those that are great at Shopify that are new to Amazon, try to get those 2 in the room and see if we can facilitate conversation. And then one thing that we're really, really interested in is we're doing a dinner series. So this thing is why we're able to scale the amount of events, because the timing is different. So we're going to do major cities around the United States, state that's obviously acceptable with COVID and all the other restrictions, rent Airbnbs, or not, if we can't find the right Airbnbs in certain states, depending on obviously capacity and allowed capacity, sorry.
Right.
We're going to do anywhere between 10 to 25 people. It's just dinner, networking, and mingling. And we'll be able to get at least, I believe, 8 to 10, because we can structure those across each quarter. And that way it's hand picking, because we're going to pay for everything. We just want the right people in the room so that they're having the right conversations. And selfishly, if I get a good room, I get to learn the most, right? Like it's what I want to learn and what I want to do. So this always scratches that specific special niche of I want to learn, what am I interested in? Like right now I'm huge on YouTube. So I'm trying to get like a room of YouTubers and see if I can learn some shit from them.
That's crazy. So going off of that quick, where do you see GeekOut in like 5 years from now?
I think GeekOut will be chapters. I think there will be like it's like you have YPO and you have, what's the other one? It's young entrepreneurs, and then it's EO. What's the other one? There's another group that like does like meetups in regions, right? I think there's going to be, we have to keep the general meetups in each quarter. So I think it'll always be 5, one each quarter, a larger geek out, and then you'll have mini breakout meetings around the United States where we have very large, like we have people that have been with us for a long time, like Jordan Menard and Van Oaks, and new guys like Mina. And these individuals have a good enough personal brand, or have the ability to like carry on with what the geek out's about, which is open book. You got to share all things and no need to hide it. No fucking ego. It doesn't make sense for you to have an ego if you want to continue to be around. You're like, always be a student, always be learning, and then be willing to lose. Like you have to be able to share those losses. That's something that's extremely important for us to kind of have others be brought along and feel like if you're willing to share a loss, then you're willing to like be open about the real things that are happening, right? Like we had people talking about like lawsuits or employees suing them, right? Like that's not a common topic, but that's real shit that real business owners go through.
Yeah. Yep. So what's the source of cash used to fund GeekOut when it comes to like early on? So you just got started. You're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get this going? Did you get people to buy tickets and then use the tickets to fund what went on? And then how does it work now? Is it mainly sponsorships? How does that work?
Great question. Before it was self-funded or ticket funded only. So James and myself just pushing as many tickets as we possibly could. That's tough because you're coming out of pocket early on for like reservations, down payments, and so it was pretty cash intensive. I don't think it has to be. I think there's ways of doing it a little bit cheaper, getting a cheaper space, using a house. Peer space has been big. Like we found that out this year. Now we're kind of at a bigger size where we're like minimum 55 to 60 people. So yeah, and then we didn't do sponsorships until last year. Our first sponsor, we had like a group of 3. it's a very delicate balance because sponsors need to have new attendees in the seats so that they have the ability to get an ROI on their event. We do things a little bit differently because we check in with every single sponsor, like what is the cost to make sure you get an actual return. If you look at our sponsors that we had this year, we had Thrasio, we had Viacus, we had Gorgeous, we had Incense, we had Wayflyer, we had there's so many people, we had Checkout Champ, and we worked with them to understand what exactly does it cost for you to get somebody on your service. What does that cost you? Some people like it's $100, some people like $1,000 because they know what the LTV is. And we work with them to see how do we position it? Do I have to make personal introductions? Do I have to allow you to speak? Because you could only allow so many talks from a sponsorship before you realize like, fuck, I'm gonna get pitched at. And I heard 2 times this year at different stages, like, hey, yeah, it was really, really good value, but I feel like he pitched me at the end. And I'm sitting here going like, damn, because that's my audience. Like that's my group that trusted me to come there and enjoy it. So that's a big change that we're doing next year is we understand that at this month, 4 years in, we know our crew, we know our crowd. They're good people, they're high level people. These people aren't like freshly coming into the space. For you to be able to afford a $4,000 minimum ticket, fly there, spend 4 days there away from your business, you're probably dropping at least $10,000, right? Like you're in that range of like 5 to 10 G's, no matter where it's at. So it's a buying audience. These people have the ability, they have the means to make purchases. And why I know this is because every single event, like right before, like I always panic. I do my selling, we do our talks, we run our ads, and it's like slowly uptaking 2 weeks, 1 week before. When was the last time you bought like a vacation or like you paid for a flight? Like you plan like months in advance, right? Like, oh, I gotta like map out for the best price. I want to get the best rates. I want to get the rooms. Our people wait for like the week and a half before. Like, hey, can I fly out still? I'm like, yeah, but that's gonna be like a $2,000 flight. What are you doing? That's our people. They don't care. They have the money to do it. So we over-indexed in the past on experiences, and it allowed us to like really find an audience that's willing to pay. And so right now, to answer you shortly, it's half sponsors, half ticket sales, and then eventually we want it to be like 100% no sponsors and just back to ticket sales. But for you to grow from a 20-person, 30-person event, and to do each event probably costs us around all in like $165,000, $200,000 an event now. Before we can get away with like $60,000 event, $50,000 event, which you can cover with a handful of tickets. But now it's like if we aren't selling 50 plus tickets, even with sponsorship, like there's no chance it's going to be positive. Like I told you before, it's the most fun business I have, but it's the least amount of money it makes.
Yeah. My follow-up question was, what does it look like what do those sponsorships look like? You said could look like a variety of things. Is it mainly people just speaking and pitching? Not necessarily, but is that mainly what it is?
It was. So it's different now. So there is access to the list, emails. It's access to webinars. Like we'll do a joint webinar to our audiences. It's speaking on stage, which we're limiting that away from, I think we allowed 4 last year. We're going to move it down to, we allowed 5 last year per event. We're lowering that down to 2 each event. Dinners, like you can sponsor dinner, like, yo, this is based, thanks to Triple Whale for sponsoring this event.
Right.
They're going to say a couple things while we're eating, just to be on all of our like ads, to be around some digital content that we'll create for you. So it is and was primarily around getting on stage and talking. That's the easiest way to get a single, think about it, right? One message out to the masses, jump on stage and talk. But if you have the focal point of the entire room, you can't waste an opportunity with just pitching. So it's like a very fine balance, because if you provide value, those will come and seek that value. But if you aren't, it's really, really quick to be turned off and nothing happens. So the sponsorships allows you to have 1 or 2 different people, because you might need like 1 or 2 different people to help you work the room. And you might need to have more follow-up or like coaching around doing the correct presentation, because each event we do, like we have 3 calls with me before you go live. So you've talked to me 5 times about the piece of content that you're going to share before you even talk. Yeah. Different. Most people don't give a shit like that.
Well, I've got one more question for you. And thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Of course. So this one's more personal to me, but it might apply to some people out there who've got wild dreams of what they want to do and where they want to go next. For me personally, when I ask myself where I want to be, I want to, like, I visualize myself on a stage talking to people about marketing, and to a whole group of people who love the type of marketing that I love. And maybe I'm helping them, or maybe I'm listening to someone else speak about the type of marketing we all love. And it's just a bunch of people coming together, working on themselves and progressing in the marketing world and business owning world. So where would someone in my boat or me go? Where would they start? If you had to give your little piece of thought.
I love this because we have 1 or 2, like, they'll call them like circuit speakers that have done this before. For the longest time, the only people that ever spoke on our events with me and James, and we've done this before. So I would share one thing. One, apply to speak at various events and masterminds, and have the thing that you're really good at. Like I asked on the questionnaire, what are the 3 things that you know you can speak to more than anybody else? And that's your pitch, right? That's your thing. Like, hey, I'm really good at speaking about content that converts. Here's what I've done in the past, and here's a presentation that I currently have. The ease of getting onto an event right now is a little bit more accessible than it was in the past because of online summits, because of digital summits, right? We all have the ability, like, perfect example, Chase Diamond, he does a digital summit, and all you need is to already have a presentation that you haven't done before. That's it. That's a very easy to do. If you have a presentation or something you want to share, super simple for you to kind of jump out and get that going. So I would tell you, know what you are good enough to speak at and have updated quality of content. And the second is you have to take a couple of risks and start making content yourself, so that I can look back and see, like, oh, what have you done before? Where are you sharing most of your content? For me as an event host, why I want people to come is like, is that person marketable? Is that a unique angle to that? Is that something that I've never seen before? Is that something that I'm like, oh, that's different. I know the concept, but that's a different spin on it. So the uniqueness of quality of content is something that it's super intriguing to myself. And then it's a little bit on the outreach side. So I don't think there's anything sexy about it other than, like, where have all the events go. And I have a good list of them actually right here. I'll share it with you so you can drop it with the group. And this is where I find a lot of my speakers too. So it's called, marketingterms.com/conferences. And I just dropped it into you. But it's pretty cool. Like, there's a bunch of people that I plan on reaching out to and checking some of their content. But you have to produce. Like, if you're thinking about, like, I would love to be in a content position, you have to be making something somewhere so someone can reference. My recommendation is Twitter and YouTube.
That's pretty simple.
It is.
It's just getting at it. Yep.
It is. How do you create? That's it. Yeah. It was never, I never had like a game plan. I think the very first stage I ever jumped on was 2017. That's not that long ago.
Do you, as a follow-up to that, do you see yourself as a leader to the people that you have at your events? Or do you see yourself as someone who's just made the environment so that everyone can come together and collaborate?
I think my ego would answer it as, like, I want to be viewed as a leader. I think knowing myself, like, I get a lot of self-worth being valuable to others. Like, it's sad or good. I don't know. It depends on where you stand. Opinions of others, of myself, as much as I don't want it to feel, I take a lot of, I feel that, like, a lot of public opinions to myself, which is why I didn't do a course for the longest time, which is why I try my best to be thoughtful and when I can. I tried my best to do my best at all times. Sometimes someone's best is like 85% because of everything else that's happening in their world. But I truly care and give a fuck about things. So that is tough, because in an event business, when someone tells me I feel pitched at, or I didn't get a return, or I didn't make the connections, my first thing is like, let me refund your money, because now I didn't do my job. So I like to be viewed as someone that's important. It doesn't necessarily have to be a leader, but it does have to be with a positive, respectful opinion.
Yeah, and that was kind of a weird way to phrase the question, because I think the leader in you would be the one to make that space, right? So I think you answered that perfectly, despite how I worded it. But
it was a good question for me to run with. So I like the ability. Thank you for allowing me to run with it in that direction.
Just kind of came out that way. All right. But yeah, totally. So thanks for hopping on. Is there anything else you want to add to anyone listening based on what you've said already?
I mean, if anybody is interested in jumping in and sharing content, even yourself, dude, I have that outreach sheet there. Know what you're good at, know what you can talk about, and I would love to give yourself an opportunity to grow and run a room and build it, because if that's something that means the most to you, it's something that you're interested in, you should have a taste.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds good. And then where can people find you? Gotta leave it there.
I am Shackelford on Twitter. It's a big focus of mine. And then I am Nick Shackelford on the Instagrams.
All right. Sweet. Well, thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
No problem, buddy. I'll see you later.
Hey, if you like this video, you should like it, subscribe, ring the bell, and then go follow me on Twitter, because that's where I'm posting all the announcements about stuff like this. So, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Stay tuned for the next video.